hell's going on here? I'm still signed into PlayStation, but the Gran Turismo 7 servers are down. So because the servers are down, you can't play anything in the game.
The game is literally unplayable today, so I couldn't record the background footage that I wanted. That's ironic. I'm going to talk about things that I don't like in Gran Turismo 7, and don't worry, I'm going to talk about things that I do like. Oh, fuck, the case still fell, even though I looked at where I was throwing it. But nobody's going to watch that. You click this because you're here for the drama, you want the juicy stuff, we're going to talk about it. So last time we were talking about Gran Turismo, it was with GT4, and I really enjoyed that, and the reason we were able to do that was because you were able to play the game offline. You see what I'm getting at? Gran Turismo 7, despite the fact that it's predominantly a single-player experience, forces you to be connected to the internet at all times. If you try to boot this up without an online connection, you get to do like a quick race feature and that's it. 99% of the features of Gran Turismo are not available unless you're connected to the internet. And while things like multiplayer and even the in-game economy are tied to this internet connection, it is just really shitty that you have to be connected that way because the future of the game is pretty uncertain. I'm able to pop in GT4 and theoretically load up a 20-year-old replay or a photo moment. I'm able to preserve those memories, but who knows what the future of this game holds. Once the servers shut down, we might lose all of this forever. I'd really like to see this game get patched with an offline only mode. That would be great, but I think they want to tie this all into the economy and stuff, which we'll talk about. It is what it is. A big thing with Gran Turismo is the variety in the cars that you can collect throughout the game. That's obviously a big deal. The number of cars have been drastically limited from previous games, like I think Gran Turismo 4 has over 700 cars. This one has over 400. Now that's understandable because they got to put a lot more detail in these cars. They got a full cockpit view. They have to make sure the car drives like it should, and that all takes a lot of time. But the cool thing to me about Gran Turismo was that you were always able to build a garage of all of the cars that you wanted. In Gran Turismo 7, it's more like you're a collector getting cars for a museum than it is you putting cars in a garage. Even though they still call it your garage, it's more like a museum. You'll notice in the beginning stages of the game that they just give out cars like candy, and the reason for this is because you can't sell them. Yep, even if you take a car and fully customize it, you can't sell it. The only way you can sell cars is if you get duplicates of them, and even then you're not really selling them, you're just discarding them. I think the main reason they went with this design choice is because the game has this progression element where you're collecting all of the cars and you're gathering all the information on the history and the pedigree of the brand, but I just want to put a limited number of cars in my garage, which is my garage. You can keep the museum stuff separately. Well, you could have, but you didn't. You could have pulled the Pokemon Pokedex thing. Like, they basically have a Pokedex in Gran Turismo 7 where you can see all the information for every single car that you collect. Why didn't they just keep that separate from your actual garage? I don't know. Maybe they just want to sell you more credits. We'll get to that. One of the most beautiful things that I remember about Gran Turismo... Man, my mouth is dry as fuck. Hold on. When I was a kid, one of the coolest things about Gran Turismo 2 was the vast amount of cars that you could pick when you first started up the game. It almost felt like there were hundreds of cars, limitless options. It seemed like the go-to for everybody that played in my household was the Celica, but what if you just wanted to buy a Honda Civic or a Prelude or something else? There were so many cars to choose from when it came to starting the game. And again, this goes back to the progression system that they're putting in Gran Turismo 7, which makes sense, and that's a good thing, but it waters down the experience when you only have 3 cars to start from. So you'll start off by going to a used car dealer, which is a really limited list of cars. I think it's like a daily rotation or something, although every time I check it, it's the same cars over and over. And there's only 3 that you can afford. You have to pick from one of these 3 compact cars. You got the Honda Fit, the Toyota Aqua, and I don't even remember, like the Mazda Demio or some shit. A pretty underwhelming choice of cars to start out with. I understand why they did it because it ties back into the progression thing, but all the starters you get are just really similar, and I don't know, man, it just makes you go, Given the small selection of cars coupled with the fact that you only get 3 to start out with, it seems like they took the approach of bringing in less quirky cars. I started out Gran Turismo 4 with a Honda Today, and I slammed it with tilty wheels, but what am I gonna do with the Honda Fit? Well, I ended up using it in the multiplayer, so that was fun. It seems the selection of cars in GT7 range from, oh, I've seen that in traffic, to, oh, I've seen that on YouTube before. Like every other Gran Turismo game, the game runs on an economy system where you get credits for completing races, and the economy system in Gran Turismo 7 is a little weird. I don't know if I want to say that it's exactly overly expensive or a little more accessible, because in this market I think it's changing because you're always constantly connected to the internet. They took this approach of, oh, in real life the price of these classic Japanese iconic cars are raising, so in the game of GT7 and we're going to make the prices absorbently high too. So you're going to find that a Honda Civic Type R from the 90s is going to cost you as much as a supercar. It's kind of strange. I guess they wanted to take a little bit more of a realistic approach with this, but it's also a little weird that I only get like 7 grand from a multiplayer race, but I can go and get 15 grand from a single player race that's a lot easier. But in order to win that $7,000 in a multiplayer race, I've had to put 50 grand into the Honda Fit to race it in multiplayer, and I like the tuning in multiplayer, but that's a lot of credits for not a lot of return. But then again, the single player races can be a little easy and you can get like 15,000 plus credits at a time, so I don't know. What I will say is that they don't shy away from the fact that they'll let you buy credits, because every single time you unlock credits or you spin the little roulette wheel because you get a ticket after completing a certain amount of miles for a day, like a daily miles thing, you know, something to keep you engaged with the game, I guess, on a daily basis. You get a ticket and it spins this roulette wheel, and then every time you get credits, it's like, hey, you can top them up. You want to go to the PlayStation Store and top up some extra credits? You get $20, you get 1,000,000 credits. Or you can get the Super Deluxe version of the game and get extra credits. Cool. Speaking of that roulette wheel, it seems that you're limited to only get certain rare items through this roulette system, like engine swaps. Yeah, I played the game for about a week before I even realized that engine swaps were an availability in this game. However, the only way that you're able to access these motor swaps is by getting them in the roulette wheel thing where you get the daily ticket. Even then, it's based on the collector score you get from how far you've progressed in the single player game, which makes sense. And rare items should probably be in a limited scope where it's rare to get. That's part of the fun of it, but it just feels a little odd, you know? But that is something to be mindful of. Multiplayer is derived from its predecessor Gran Turismo Sport, which I mainly skipped other than to play it in VR for a little bit. So you have the sport mode, the competitive multiplayer element where you can raise your driver rank and you can compete in daily races with these certain class restrictions that make the game more competitive. It also adds the ability to add some tuning elements to the cars to compete in these competitive races within the restrictions. That was super fun. I got really addicted to changing the gearing of my transmission and trying to squeeze every bit of performance out of it to try to win these races. I have more miles on my Honda Fit from doing the multiplayer races than any other car that I currently have in the garage, which is just really funny. But I feel like they could have made the wait times for the qualifying just a little bit shorter. I'll open up the sport tab to go to a daily race and the wait time will be like 10 minutes and I'll be like, fuck that. There just seems to be a lot of waiting time in between the multiplayer elements of the game, whether it's in sport or whether it's in casual. If we can make that a little snappier, that could be pretty cool. Also, when you're into these competitive online races, the penalty system, I'm sure this isn't new to anybody who's been playing sport, but it's kind of fucked. There's definitely been times that people knock me into an oversteer going around the corner and they won't get any penalty for it. But a guy slightly drives into the grass because I'm a little too close to him on the track and I get a 5-second penalty. I'm going to try to find this race in my files to put behind me right here, but there was this race where this dude was constantly bumping the fuck into me and he didn't get any kind of penalty for it. He was like intentionally trying to push me out of the way. Nothing.
If you play like that, you're a fucking bitch. Don't go into the competitive mode with that fuck shit, man.
Multiplayer is still really fun though, as well as the entire game as a whole, man. There's so much that I like about it that I'm gonna have to tell you in this video that you can go watch here if it's up. If it's not, I don't know why I haven't put the video up before I uploaded this one, but be sure to check out all of the things that I like about GT7, which are a lot, because it's a pretty cool experience, especially on PS5. My mouth is really dry. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, let me know what you think in the comments, and subscribe because I'm going to have a lot more stuff just like this coming soon. And if